Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Systeme.io podcast with me, Natasha Pinto. Join us as we discuss all things digital marketing and entrepreneurship. Here, online business owners take us on their journey, how they went from zero to launch. Today, our guest is Jason Whaling. He's an entrepreneur, digital marketer, and consultant. And you've also created a bunch of really awesome free tools that are available on your website. Saw those when I stalked you. But I think what would be really awesome for our audience is if you can give us your history. So take me through where you thought you were headed and then what put you on the path to where you are now.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's really great.
And my my journey into digital marketing just started out of a massive failure and pretty much having a business blow up in my face. So I went to real quick version. I went to college for accounting. I thought I was going to go into finance, and I studied and got my registered financial advisor license about 2 years after I graduated. And I started learning this whole online marketing thing because I wanted to get clients and I wanted to teach people how to be successful with budgeting and also teach people how to actually manage their own portfolios. And unfortunately, I was trying to offer something that nobody actually wanted, because in the how to be successful investing in the stock market niche, the most successful products are the ones that are geared towards just giving people the answer. It was kind of like I wanted to be the tutor when everyone just wanted the cheat sheet. Yeah. And through just kind of banging my head against the wall, trying to sell these services and offers that nobody really wanted, wound up finding that I didn't have any clients. And by the end of that time, it had been about 3 years. I pretty much had no more savings left. I liquidated my portfolios to try and make this work. And I had just as much marketing experience by that point as I had financial advisory experience. And the way you really make money as a financial advisor is just selling financial products. It's not actually helping people. At least that's my opinion, right? Other people would would differ. But I didn't really want to run around selling products that I didn't believe in and insurance that people didn't actually need for the rest of my life. And so I went and joined a digital marketing agency. And then 2 years later, wound up starting to create a YouTube channel, just kind of sharing all of my failures. And of course, failed again trying to sell digital products. And eventually co-founded the marketing agency that I work at now with someone else who worked at that agency. And so we manage a lot of clients and I make a lot of YouTube videos. So that's the real quick version.
I think it's actually like quite a common trajectory. So many people start off thinking, hey, I'm going to do this thing that I studied for, or this thing that I thought I was going to do. And you sort of hit some bumps along the way, or you experience like, a business blowing up in your face and you have to make a plan. And I think it shows a lot of, I don't know, tenacity amongst entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs especially, that you can kind of hit the ground occasionally, but hit it running.
Yeah. And I think there's a certain aspect of not really getting hung up on the fact that you got, knocked down. You just gotta, it's really cliche. Like you just gotta get up and keep going. But that seems to be really what it takes. And once you recognize that it's kind of like being a fighter, like it doesn't matter if you're the best boxer in the world, you've probably been hit a couple times and you might have been knocked down a couple times, but it doesn't mean you're like, oh, this whole boxing thing doesn't work, I quit, right? Like that's just part of the game. So get used to getting back up quicker and instead of trying to avoid every single punch that comes your way.
And even where you are now, do you still face some obstacles and setbacks, and how do you manage those?
I wouldn't say that I'm mature enough to handle them the way I should all the time. They happen. It seems like half my job as an entrepreneur is just putting out fires that I shouldn't have to deal with. Just as a recent example, we haven't actually posted consistently to my channel over the past 2 months, and you could look at that and go, what happened? And like, well, I'll tell you what happened. 3 people left out of the blue. That's what happened. We had a bunch of content writers who just decided to leave. And then we had, a client that left. And then we had a website that was totally hacked. And so it's one of those things where there's going to be those days and those weeks where you're doing exactly what was on your Gantt chart, right? So it's like, this is exactly what we were supposed to be doing this quarter. And then the next week, you look back at it, you're like, I worked 40 hours on all of this garbage that I don't care about. And I think part of what I try and do, at least with my blogs and content, is communicate that entrepreneurship is and I don't really have an exact percentage, but it's like 20 or 30% of what you actually want to do. And then the other, 70% is all of the fires and problems that come up as a result of trying to do the things that you want to, like people leaving, clients leaving, platforms changing their terms of service, or you're finding out that your main revenue stream is going to go away in a year. Those it's just constant adaptation and putting out fires. So
yeah, definitely. But you've got to find a place where that 20% of what you do, which you're supposed to do, which you want to do, is worth the 70% of putting out those fires, right?
yeah, I would say so, because especially when you're able to get full time, which I've luckily been able to kind of stay full time for quite a while now. Like that's always something that I can fall back on. At least when I wake up and I'm looking at my task list and I'm looking at this mess that I have in front of me. I mean, at least it's your mess, right? It's our mess. It's something that we can take ownership in, and it's actually going to matter that we fix it, as opposed to, when I worked at an agency, it was okay, well, I got to fix this mess and it's going to be terrible. I'm going to lose my weekend and I still get paid the same amount.
Yeah.
It's not going to, the only thing I'm going to remember in 2 weeks is that I didn't get to do XYZ with my free time, as opposed to, when it's your project and it's, something that you actually love, at least in 2 or 3 weeks, you look back and go, man, that was terrible. But I still have my business, right? So
Yeah.
you still have your project and something that you genuinely enjoy working on.
Yeah. So definitely you got to be a stakeholder in your own business, because otherwise, well, what's the point? You need that motivation.
Yeah, you're not going to have the energy. The energy's not going to be there.
And for our audience, can you give us kind of like an income comparison of when you started versus now? So maybe when you started at that marketing agency where you were working for someone else and you didn't have that like motivation to do better because you see direct results, to how you are doing now.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I personally actually tend not to, I tend to shy away from all the income numbers. And the main reason I do that is I am terrified. I'm a coward. Like I'll tell you, I'm terrified of being branded as a fake guru, because we all know that if we go to YouTube and type in how to make money online, or like income reports or YouTube income reports, there's full of them. And I think some people do a really good job with them. And some people, just comes across as spammy and ruins their brand. So in terms of like actual income, when I worked at the agency, when I started in Seattle, I started at $16 an hour. And by the time I left, I think I got up to about 18. He was pretty reluctant to give me any more than that, give me any more than that. And with YouTube, it took me 2 years from YouTube AdSense revenue. It took me 2 years to replace that agency income from just the AdSense on YouTube. And then I can say last year was the first year that I crossed the 6-figure mark. And but I would put the asterisk, but I think one of the most important things with income is I live off the same budget that now that I did when I worked at the agency. So my essentially monthly expenses are about $3,000 or less on average, unless I have a plane ticket I have to go somewhere in, or I have a giant security deposit for an Airbnb or something like that. But for the most part, the expenses are, $3,000 or $2,500 or less. And so for me, my focus has been on making sure that I can enjoy the kind of lifestyle that I want. Now, obviously, I'm in the Philippines right now, so that is a lot of money here. Like that gives me the options and availability that if I was still in Seattle, I mean, no way, I'd be in a tiny little shack. And I was for a while. I was for a while. The apartment that I had in Seattle was 384 square feet. Like it was just literally one room. It was tiny. And so I think with income, it's definitely good to have goals, but I think more so, it's also good to understand what your ideal day wants to look like. I know I'm getting a little off track here, but this was a concept that I came across when I first got started. And I can't give credit because I don't remember who it was. It's just one of those things, you're binge watching YouTube for 12 hours and one thing stands out to you, right?
Yeah.
And it was, what does your ideal day look like? And I remember going through the exercise and realizing, my ideal day doesn't require me to withdraw 5 or 10K a month from my business. And so my lifestyle design has been around making sure that I have those 3 or 4 things that are really actually important to me in terms of how I spend my time. And then after that, I take everything and reinvest it into the business. And we're able to do a lot more projects because, we're not taking so much money out, because I kind of adopted that Warren Buffett mindset when I was a financial advisor. It's like, yeah, I could go buy this car, or I could go buy the stock, and then I could, buy 5 or 6 cars in 10 years. So that's kind of my answer to that income question without giving the exact number.
No, I think it's a good one. And it's important to go beyond just that like idea of, oh, this is the money I want to make. It's also about the lifestyle you want to live, how many hours you want to work, what kind of working conditions you want. I mean, I'm coming from a full-time teaching job, so working in a classroom with students.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This, which is kind of perfect for me. I get to, for the most part, wear what I want to work from the comfort of wherever. South Africa's got some interesting electricity issues, so I can work out those quite easily and just go to a coffee shop that's far away enough that they've still got power. So it works a lot better for me. I feel like, I think you need to, like you said, find out what's really important to you, what your ideal day looks like, and then go after what makes that possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Great summary.
And then one of your specialities is in sales funnels and funnel building. So can you give us the definition of a funnel architect? Because I think it was a career. Is it still a career?
It certainly was a career, and I'd say there's certainly a lot of coaching and memberships out there that like to say so. So in terms of how I would define a funnel architect, I would say someone who designs and actually builds funnels. I think the concept of someone who just designs the funnel and says, hey, this is the type of funnel that you should make, and then someone's supposed to give you money for that. I think we're past that point. I think there's enough information for people to understand. And then, of course, shameless plug for your software. It's simple enough for most people to build. And so I think the funnel architect, in terms of a actual career, I think it's still there, but I think it's much more of you need to be a full stack person, and you need to actually understand someone's strategy. Because what I notice with a lot of our clients and questions in the comments is the general concept is there for most people. Like, okay, I need a landing page, and then people get some emails and they go to this like upsell sequence. And so they kind of understand the concept. But then when it comes to actually building it and implementing it, I think that's where people start getting really, really confused, just in terms of all the different technologies. I mean, even if you're using an all-in-one service like what you guys have, there's still room for someone to come in and say, hey, I'm going to build this all out for you. And I think you, as a funnel architect, you have to have the technical knowledge and aspect, especially when it comes to conversion tracking, because my gosh, nobody sets up conversion tracking properly by themselves. We've never had a client. It doesn't matter if they're spending 500 a month or they're spending 50,000 a month. They never have conversion tracking correct. So there you go. If you want to be a funnel architect, just conversion tracking, and you're going to immediately ROI for your client. But on top of that, I think you also need to have a really good understanding of copywriting and be able to tell someone, or actually do the copywriting for the funnel. And I think we've gotten to a point where you don't necessarily have to be a copywriting expert if you're building out the funnel. I think you just have to be amateur level, and amateur level is going to be 10 times better than what the business owner is going to write on their own, because the business owner is going to talk all about features, all about how great they are. They're going to plaster testimonials and client success stories everywhere, and there's not going to be a single benefit on the page. And so I think it's still there. You need to be able to do the copywriting. You need to be able to set up Google Analytics correctly, and you need to be able to provide the strategy of specifically what type of lead magnet should we be using, and actually the strategy in terms of what do we do with all those people who don't buy? Because I think a lot of the misconception around funnels is it's somehow this magic thing where 100% of the people buy. It's like, well, no. It's maybe 4 or 5% if you're doing good, right? So we have 95% of people that we need to do something with. And so I think that's also another area a funnel architect could provide a lot of value with the 95% of people who actually don't buy. So,
okay. And then can you comment, there's a quite common statistic that comes from Salesforce that 68% of companies have not identified or even attempted to identify and measure a sales funnel. And yet the same survey shows that like 79% of marketing leads are never converted into sales. So there's obviously a direct correlation between that. And those numbers are terrifying because, I mean, like you said, sales funnel building, even just the basics of it, is easier and easier. Like every year, software makes it simpler and simpler. You can literally drag and drop, use the template. It'll do everything for you. You're just filling little bits in. So how do you think this is possible? Why do you think people ignore the power of a sales funnel?
I think there's two sides to it too. And I think this is a generational thing. So when we have clients who are less than 40, they're much more open to us trying these things. Clients who tend to be over that age, and I'm not being ageist or anything, this is just my personal experience, right? They tend to be really, really married to what has been working for them. And then when they do try something, they don't give it enough time. I think there seems to be a really big delay. So like when we get clients, we'll get clients who come into, like, let's say Google ads, right? And they think that they're just going to spend a few $1,000s and like clients are going to magically appear. They're going to get a bunch of customers, right? Well, if it was, I don't know, 2012, 2013, sure, that would happen. Like it was stupid easy. But now, even when you're running paid traffic, you still have a bunch of nurturing, and you're not going to just throw up an ad, put up a landing page, and then expect a bunch of people to join your email list. And so I think there's also the expectations are off, because the few people who have tried, they've tried it for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and then it hasn't worked. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, this thing doesn't work. It's like, well, it's only been 3 or 4 months, and you've only spent, I don't know, I know sounds crass, but you've only spent $10,000 or $20,000, which means you only had a few thousand people go through. And so that, and at a 4 or 5% conversion rate, that's not very many customers to test this on and then just give up on. So I think it's a combination of expectations in terms of it didn't work instantly, so I'm just not going to try it, and being really stuck with whatever's currently working and not wanting to invest in the traffic side of things too, because I think that's the main issue. It's like the funnel makes sense to people, and then they totally forget about the traffic side, and then they blame the funnel on the fact that they don't have a traffic strategy. So
definitely, I think you're right. It is twofold. And then let's talk a little bit more about paid traffic. So how do you go about using it, and why? Why would you choose paid traffic over some of the free resources that you can have? What's the biggest benefit?
Well, so personally, for my business, I use way more content marketing than I do paid traffic. I tend to gravitate towards that. Our entire agency is based on running paid traffic for other people, though. So I have this kind of weird dichotomy. So the main advantage of paid traffic is you're going to get results in 3 to 6 months, as opposed to content where it's maybe 6 months to a year and a half. Even when I worked at the agency, most business owners, when one of the first questions they ask when they're saying, "Hey, we should do this SEO plan. We want to make these posts for you." Like, okay, well, how long will it take to get clients? And even when we were super aggressive, we're like, you know what, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and it's going to take 6 months. Most people just go, no, let's just run some paid ads. So I think the impatience aspect is a problem with the content marketing route, even though I think long term it works a lot better. And I'll get to a personal story of that in a moment. Then for the advantages of paid traffic is it's faster and you learn quicker. The disadvantage though is it's just going to get harder. Like you can't. The main issue is it now takes such a big time investment that a lot of people who are just getting started, it's really hard to go about being successful with paid traffic on your own. I still think YouTube and Google until July or June of next year is a good option. So if you're just getting started and you're like, hey, I have some capital to play with, then I think YouTube ads is still one of the best areas out there. I'm not a huge Facebook person. I have somebody else do that for us. And then Google ads, well, they're pretty much nuking their platform. So I wouldn't recommend anyone get started with Google ads on their own unless they're really going to focus in on it over the next 6 months. So
yeah, and kind of expect a change in 6 months.
Yeah, they're oh, sorry. So sometimes I'm a nerd, so sometimes I forget. Like, why would other people remember this? So Google's actually going to force everyone to use responsive text ads, and they're taking away expanded text ads. And all that means is you're no longer going to be able to see the exact headline and the exact ad that's working for you. They're going to move to a scoring system. So instead of being like, this ad got a 12% click-through rate, they're going to be like, this ad is an 8 out of 10. And you're going to go, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know what to, like it's like getting a nebulous grade. So I'm sure as a teacher, it's like the difference between grading a math quiz and grading an essay, right? Like if you're running ads, you want to know, did I get the answer right? As opposed to, all right, well, there's, some sort of element of, whatever you as the teacher think the way it should have been written. It's not like every teacher is going to grade it the exact same way. An essay versus, well, 2 + 2. Like we all agree what that number is.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it will make things difficult. And what do you think about the latest Facebook change to, Facebook, Instagram, and everything else they own to Meta? Do you think that's going to also make an impact on Facebook ads and how that whole situation works?
I don't think it's going to impact ads too much. I remember back when Google changed their name to Alphabet, and we all thought it was going to be like something crazy, cool, and just kind of fizzled out. And they just changed different when you look up their ticker symbol. So I think what iOS or Apple's doing, I think that's going to make the biggest impact over the next year. And I'm very interested to see what they do with all the data they're allegedly not collecting when it comes to advertising. So I think that's going to make a much bigger difference than any moves that kind of Facebook makes. And I think unless Facebook can figure out a way to actually get into the hardware game, I think they're always going to be beholden to Google and Apple with whatever they decide to do with their OSs. So I think that's going to make a bigger difference.
Okay. And then sticking to the kind of social media aspect of things, you've got quite a large following on YouTube. How did you go about growing that? Because I think it's all well and good having an awesome YouTube channel with great videos. If nobody sees them, you feel a little bit like you're shouting in the dark.
And to a certain extent, I still do. To a certain extent, I still do. I'll post, I'll work so hard on vlogs and I'll get like 200 or 300 views. It's just like, okay, nobody cared. Nobody, well, not, no, see, that's the trap. It's like, okay, well, not as many people cared as I thought. There are some people who I know do appreciate them, but when it comes to growing my particular channel, I was, and up until this point, I've been 100% focused on keywords. So what I would do in the beginning, and it's harder to do this now, but what I would do is I would go to YouTube and I'd have a topic, like let's say time blocking. I like to use this example a lot. And so I would go to YouTube and I'd type in the search box, time blocking, and then I would hit the space. And all of those suggestions, I would make a video for each, literally make a video for each one of them. So in my first year, I actually did a sprint. I posted 60 videos in 30 days when I went all in on YouTube. That was like my challenge. I was like, you know what? I'm going to post 2 videos a day. My assistant posted one video at it was like 12:05 or something because of the time difference. I was like, dang it. So technically there was one day where it was 3 and 1. So I just say 2, I just say 60 overall.
Yeah.
But making videos that were very, very specific to a question. So I would go, if it said time blocking and then it said time blocking Google Calendar, time blocking mastery, time blocking plan, time blocking tips, time blocking tutorial, I would look at the search results and see, okay, what's the difference between someone typing in tutorial versus Google Calendar versus planner versus, mastery, right? And so as an example, people typing in time blocking mastery, they were looking for a review of the book called The One Thing, which is one of my favorite productivity books by Gary Keller and Jay Pappson. And so I did a time blocking video that included a book review. But if you looked at my other 6 time blocking videos, I didn't include the book review because I knew people didn't care unless they were typing in mastery. And so that level of detail is what I did on kind of the tutorial content side. And then I focused really heavily on reviews. I don't know, the reason that I went towards reviews in the beginning is I got really frustrated and this still happens to me with tech today. Like you'll go to YouTube and you will search for like the latest camera review, latest iPhone review, latest, software review. And most of them are fluff, right? They're not actually telling you what the actual problems are. And there's a very popular funnel builder that I purchased. And this is actually how I got my first independent client, that said it did all these wonderful things. And I kept having problems. And I lost thousands of dollars in Facebook ads running to this thing because this part was broken. This page was taking over 10 seconds to load for some reason. The software was an absolute mess. But you wouldn't know that by going to YouTube. And so I wound up making a video just saying, hey, I really like the way this software works, but here are all the problems I'm finding. And I actually got my first client off of that video because he was having very similar problems. And the amount I guess I can share that because it's been long enough. He was trying to run, literally, he had an email list of a client that had 1 million contacts that they were trying to migrate over to this funnel software. And the system was just dropping, was dropping, hundreds of thousands of people. And of course, this is like millions of dollars for them. And I'm this like little marketer in my 300 square foot studio, like, okay, well, I made this YouTube video about it, so let me go test it for you and try and figure it out. Long story short, we both just decided that the software stunk and he needed to change. But that's how I really got traction the first couple of years, is being really OCD with those keywords, and then also just actually being truthful with the results and roadblocks I was facing with the softwares. And yeah, I got kicked out of a lot of affiliate programs and got some pretty, nasty emails. Like some people like, you're an affiliate. Why are you saying these things? Because you're not fixing them. And
Yeah.
so I think the combination of those two really helped with kind of growing the channel. And I just did not look at the first year, or maybe 2 years. I did not look at how many views I got per video. I just focused. The only focus was on how many videos I posted,
Okay.
because you're never going to be happy with the number of videos
No.
or the views you get on a video.
Yeah.
You'll never be happy with it. So,
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you there. And I think to be focused on it at the beginning, especially when you're just starting, because you are literally shouting in the dark. There's no one there yet. And the point
nobody.
is you need to produce that content even though there's no one there yet, because eventually there will be someone there. And I've seen even with some of our older videos, they still get really impressive amounts of new viewers. And I'm always like, but this
Yeah.
is older than I have been here.
Mhm.
And they're still out there and they're still getting that traction because they are, like you said, targeting those keywords, answering the questions that people actually have, and being a little bit more honest about it because you can see what's happening rather than just, oh, the software is great. It did this for me. This is where my income was. This is where it is now. Done.
Yeah, well, like
Yeah.
woohoo! Just buy the software and you'll make as much money as I do. No.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my clip art picture of a car. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then for the newbies starting out, do you have any equipment kind of recommendations for them? Because I know just starting out, a cell phone is possible, but it's not necessarily the greatest quality video. So what do you think is great for like an amateur just starting out?
Yeah. So I think it's pretty heavily dependent on the types of videos you're going to make. For me, I started with just the webcam I'm using now. The What is it called? The new Logitech has a new like 4K webcam, and so I think if you're doing anything like screen capture tutorial related, that's going to give you more than enough quality. And I recommend Camtasia or ScreenFlow, just depending. I still use Camtasia because I
I've
came
got
from
screenplay,
I'm
so
a
yeah.
longtime Windows user, new to the Mac ecosystem. But in terms of equipment, um, if it's interesting. Like I actually tend to tell people to just try using their phone, because that's what I wound up doing for the first year and a half. I did wind up buying a DSLR, that's a Lumix G85, and it's probably one of the worst things that I've ever done for my channel, because I am not a video person. Like I never really, I still like sometimes I'll turn it on to this day and I'll be like, what happened to the white balance? Like why is that off? So I think so I definitely think the main thing you should think about with equipment is what part of the video creation process do you really want to master, and what part do you enjoy. For me, I want to just turn on the camera and talk. Like I like making the videos. I like figuring out what to include in them, and the recording is just part of just a stepping stone, right? But for someone who's actually going to go out and actually do vlogging, I would definitely recommend checking out the Sony Alpha cameras. I know they're really expensive, but telling you from personal experience, I've gone through the Sony Mark II, GoPros. I have a Insta360 1R right now, and even just going with vlogging with my old Pixel phone here. Unless you go and get a full width mirrorless camera from like Sony or Canon, and you're going to spend more than $1,500, then just use your phone, because all the other solutions that are below that just aren't worth it, in my opinion. And the camera on the new iPhone beats my DSLR. Like it gives me better quality. Because my
Yep.
wife keeps trying to convince me to get it. But so that would be what I would say. If you're going to spend money on lighting. Like lighting is really important. That is, I think, the most underrated part, because lighting can hide the fact that you're using a cheap phone or a cheap webcam. So
Okay, that's some really good advice. And then you talk a lot about productivity and I would like to know how you maintain a work-life balance, because there's a lot at the moment out there on, especially for people who've transferred to this kind of work from home model, that the
Mhm.
work-life balance has kind of gone out the window because now you are working in the same place you're relaxing. So how do you manage the balance but still remain productive?
Yeah. So I would say, just on the outset, if someone were to look at my Google Calendar, I think 8 out of 10 people would say that I had a workaholic problem. So I think one of the things is deciding what your balance is and then sticking to it. So there are a couple of things. In terms of your physical space, working from home, I have pretty much since I moved to Seattle, I've almost always been in a studio. So 500 square feet is what this Airbnb is in Manila, and it's one of the biggest places I've lived over the past 3 years. So the most important part about where your physical space is you make a very clear distinction between where you work and where you relax, even if it's just 10 feet or 2 meters like that. It really does make a difference. So for me personally, when I'm at my desk, I only do work. I don't eat at my desk. I don't watch YouTube videos or browse Facebook at my desk. If I'm sitting in this chair, the only thing I'm doing is working. And then if I go over to the couch, the only thing I'm doing is watching TV or talking to my wife. And so making sure that you compartmentalize your different spaces is going to make a huge difference in terms of making sure that you give the physical cue to your brain that it's okay to turn off. And speaking of turning off, I think that's the hardest. So physical separation is number one, and then number two, in terms of turning off, it works best when you have a definite end to your workday. So whatever that end time is, even if it's 7 o'clock at night, you know, you're a night owl and you want to stay up watching Netflix, that's totally fine. It's your life. But what's most important is that you have your brain and your subconscious knows when it's 5:30, when it's 7:14, I can turn off, I can stop, I can relax, I can go to sleep. And as someone who deals with insomnia, like that's a huge thing for me. So I put in more hours than most people would be comfortable with, but you still have to make sure that there is a definite cutoff, and then also making sure that you have a. Now this one's a little more nebulous, but based upon all the research that I've done and experiments I've done on myself, you have about 50 hours of real work in you before you start to destroy your health, destroy your relationships, and destroy your future prospects of success. And so for me, I also make sure that there's not only a limit on, well, in an ideal world, there's a limit on when the work ends at the end of the day, but then there's also a limit per day. So I can't go more than 10 hours per day. And then I'm not supposed to go more than 50 hours in a week. And then there's certain projects like on Saturday where I make sure I only work on the stuff that I really enjoy on Saturday. So when I wake up on Saturday, I get to do all the fun stuff, like that 20% of entrepreneurship that's really fun. I don't I don't look at anyone's time cards. I'm not answering anyone's questions. I'm just building a funnel. I'm working on a video that I really enjoy. I'm building a new spreadsheet. I'm doing something that I find is really fun. And so, just because I'm rambling a little bit, to summarize, number one, have very separate spaces for what you do in your actual house. Number two, have a cutoff of at this time in the end of the day, work is over, because that extra 2 or 3 hours really isn't going to matter. It's not. It's
not going to be great
and
quality.
then no, it's bad. It's bad. Just because you're putting in the time doesn't mean you're doing a good job. And then number three, have a limit for the number of hours per day. Number four, have a limit for the number of hours per week. And so with that, you can keep yourself pretty successful. I think the main key to summarize all that is you have to make time your constraint. Don't make time a variable. When time is a constraint, you're going to be incredibly productive, because we all thought of that one time where we had that project and we just were like crazy productive, right? To meet a deadline. Well, you're not going to be able to do that if you keep moving all of your goalposts in terms of how long you can work.
Definitely. And then our final big question, do you have, what does your future look like for you? So do you have some medium term or a long term goal that you're working towards?
Yeah. So for me, I have been on internal. I've been working on this internal system for creating more content, and so our medium term goal is to actually. So I actually have a smaller second channel that's just about marketing tutorials, because there's more that I want to share and talk about than I could share in one channel, because you can tell that I talk a lot, right? So one of our medium term goal is to get our second and third channel to partnership status. So we've invested about $6,000 into our second channel. We expect to invest about twice that next year. And then in terms of product offerings, we're mostly looking at a way how we can be more hands-on with our offers. And we've had several failed software projects. I still long term, I'd like us to actually be offering a content management software. So like that's our long term goal, because I tend to be a very OCD Excel sheet person. And anytime I've been able to show kind of my process with other content creators, they just go, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. And then when I show them our internal sheets, they tend to ask, hey, can I just have a copy? And I'm just gonna be like, no, it took me years to build that. Are you kidding? So I think that's kind of medium and long term is really focusing on YouTube and growing the channels that we have. And then, or that's midterm, and then long term is eventually launching a software to, I think, specifically help YouTubers with managing content. Because I mean, my first channel alone has 600 or 700 videos on it. And anytime, like as an example, when our website was hacked, we had to go through every single one manually, because we had to switch out the links and fix some things. Otherwise, YouTube was like, we're gonna ban you if you don't fix all these links.
Yeah.
Well, with a software, it would have been a lot easier to, dynamically update all those descriptions. So
that one description, definitely. I think that would make a huge difference. Yeah. All right. And then some short questions. So like 2 or 3 lines. Let's see if we can keep them short and sweet. Although these ones people talk a lot on, and I know they're interesting. So is there a book or a podcast or a resource that you could recommend to our listeners? So people who are just starting out on their journey in online business.
I would say it's a close tie. It's close, but I would say The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Pappson. I've read a lot of productivity books, and I think that one is by far the best. I know people, Atomic Habits and Go F Yourself have been really popular. But what I liked about The One Thing was it was very practical and project based. And I found with myself and business partner and some people on our team, when you just focus on, all right, let's just get some work done, the mindset stuff tends to take care of itself. And I think it's really easy to get trapped into, I'm working on my vision board, or I'm, doing all this like mental or law of attraction stuff, or I'm just working on myself. Like, no, just go get some work done. Go get some work done, and the mental stuff will catch up. So.
Yeah. Agreed. And then is there a piece of advice that you would give to your 18-year-old self looking back?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. There are so many things. But I think if we had to choose one, it would be, it's who you know, not what you know. And I think relationships, and not necessarily just networking for the sake of networking, but actual meaningful relationships are incredibly important and increasingly rare. And so I would say who you know, not what you know, because you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Definitely.
All right. And then where can our listeners find you? And I will post all your tags in the comments.
Yeah. So YouTube, Jason Whaling. It's youtube.com/c/Jason Whaling 8. Because when I set up my channel, I set it up as a personal one. So I had to change the name and put 8 on the end. So if you go to Jason Whaling, there's nothing there, but Jason Whaling 8. So.
Okay, cool. Jason Whaling 8. And then anywhere else?
Then the other place would be jasonwhaling.com. And I still read and reply to every single comment. Sometimes I get a week behind, but if you have a question, just drop it in the latest video and I will reply.
Okay, awesome. Jason, thank you so much for joining me and giving us your time. And thank you to our listeners today. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on a podcasting app, subscribe to the Systeme.io podcast so that you never miss an episode. Systeme is a digital marketing software platform packed with all the tools you need to grow your online business.